Okay, morning guys. Another report from J-Bay. It's raining outside, surf small, typical summertime. Glad for the rain though. It's been dry up country, so yeah, we need it. Just a little report back. I did the program on the degradation on the dunes down at the lower point and the application of the sandbags there. I've been contacted by some of the manufacturers of the sandbags, and I've been invited to actually go down and look at their manufacturing process and learn a little bit more about what they do, why they do it the way they do, etc., etc. As I said in the program, I'm a layperson. I just report on what I see happening on the sand and give you a report on the conditions there. I've basically been invited to go and find out a little bit more, to learn a little bit more, and yeah, big thanks to the guys for the invite. Learning something new and learning a bit more about the situation will only give you a better rounded picture of what's happening. The erosion on the sand dunes is something which we're having pretty much countrywide and worldwide. So yeah, it's a problem that has to be countered in some way. Obviously, finding the best way to do that is going to be the best answer, and finding out, the most knowledge you can about it will probably result in a bit more of a more balanced perspective of what's going on. I mean, you can't blame the homeowners for trying to save their homes. So yeah, I think just going down there and finding out a bit more, and then obviously doing a report back on what I found there, and then obviously I'll do an update a little bit later about what the conditions are once we've done that, because that's going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, that's the news from that side. In the meantime, obviously we're trying to resurrect the Larry Levine logo, or Mike Fives van Vieren. He actually got hold of me. He's actually also spoken to me about a lot of old footage. He did a lot of interviews back in the 2000s of some of the old J-Bay guys. Some of it was aired on YouTube, but a lot of it is unmonetized on a small platform. He's said to me, I'm welcome to have a look at it, and maybe we can find some interesting anecdotal stuff from the early days of J-Bay, and we can post that in the future. But yeah, in the meantime, I'm just going to show you what boards I've been riding, the Asym that I've got from Mike, just to let you know sort of what sort of feel I've been getting out of it. We're looking at trying to modify that and bring it more into something more like on the groveler level, like the newer tech. And then also we take a trip to the boardroom in Port Elizabeth and go and see Dennis Ellis. He's a long-time local shaper here, and have a chat with him, and then talk about how we're going to improve and what we can do to make this board go even better. I'm just going to show you the quiver that I've got at the moment. I also got two other boards which I ride, which are more high performance big wave boards, which are bigger Smiths, but these are the ones I've been playing with a lot, because this is what you ride most of the time. So just to give you an idea, this is a 510 Speed Demon, which I got from Graham. You saw me unpacking that a little while back. So that's more like a full-on sort of fish model. I ride it as a quad. It's really good in sloppy stuff. It's really quick, really fun board. This is a mashup, which it's also 510, which I've been riding. I've ridden it as a quad and as a thruster, and I haven't got any fins in it at the moment because the fins are in that board there. But yeah, this board goes incredibly well in small soft surf, like at the point and that, and it also goes good in supers up to about 6 foot. I've absolutely been blown away with this board. But this is also in a groveler sort of model. This is a 6-1 matrix, which I've spoken about, because it's a full-on high performance board. It's narrower, it's supposed to be. It's got a lot of rocker, a bit of concave as well, and I ride this in like super clean, bigger 6 foot surf. And then what I did is I spoke to Jay about making a sort of something between your groveler type boards and a high performance board, and we were looking at a little bit wider and then a little bit more volume in the nose. He actually hasn't put as much volume as what I thought he would, but I was looking also at producing more concave in the board to give yourself a lot more speed. And I've only ridden this board I think 3 times now, and yeah, very happy with the board, and it'll be very interesting to see what it goes like in clean 6 foot supers. Yeah, and then obviously I told you about we were going to resurrect one of the old labels. This is one of Larry's old hand-drawn labels, Larry Levine surfboards. You can see I've got a Levine shirt on. That's the old Levine logo. Yeah, actually so cool to see this old logo. This is one of the old original hand-drawn design logos from dating back to probably mid to late 70s. Cool label. Nice retro board. Mike Van Furen said to me he wanted to get me on a board, and just to promote the label and that. And so I said to him, oh geez, I'm super keen, and we were talking about what to make, and I said to him, man, I haven't ridden an ASYM, and Dennis Ellis is probably the only guy. I wouldn't say he's the only guy, but he's probably done more on ASYMs and shaped more ASYMs than anybody else has. I know Spider does a few as well, but look, he's local. So I said to him, well, listen, I've never ridden an ASYM, so I said to him, give it a go, let's have a look. We gave him more or less the dims. He had a look at some of the boards here, I gave him the dims more or less. Didn't really do talk to him a hell of a lot about the bottom rockers and concaves and stuff. Like, I wanted to see what the board would come out, ride it, and then see what we could do, how the board went. And the board actually goes pretty well. But what I've found, and obviously it's been my sort of goal at the moment, because one thing that happened after riding the mashup, I got absolutely blown away by the fact that this board is just so fast. Obviously it's epoxy, it's a different feel completely. The board's just got so much drive on the line. It enters into the wave very quickly. It gets you ahead of the game, and that's almost like thrown my whole friggin' surfing out of kilter, because I keep on referring back to how well the mashup goes, and what I'm trying to do now is trying to incorporate that sort of feel into the PU boards that I've got, and obviously now with getting the ASYM, this is actually ridden as a twin and quad on the backhand turn, and your toe side is a twin, so it goes super well. I've had to play with the fins a little bit. I've got much more drive out of it than I had originally, and going with a bigger base fin. And so there's a lot of tweaking you have to do with these boards and playing with fins. I like to try and compare boards with the same fins when I do get a chance. If I'm going to ride two boards, I'll try and ride them with the same fins, and then just see how they go before you start switching out. What's interesting, and what I've found, and I found this with Graham's high performance boards, well, the last one I got, the 6-1 as well, that the boards have got a lot of rocker, and the same applies for this for the ASYM. And I found that if you don't have a lot of concave in the boards with a rocker, you tend to, especially for us older guys, we're a bit slow, you struggle to get the board up and going as quickly, so you have to work a lot harder. So what I'm gonna be doing now, this board's got a lot of rocker, but it's got a fairly severe concave as well through it, so that helps to flatten that rocker through the board and gives you a bit more speed. I find this board goes incredibly well in super clean, like powerful surf, but it doesn't go that well in when the surf is getting soft and junky. What I found with the ASYM is that the board's got a lot of rocker, and it doesn't have a lot of concave. And what I found there is you have to work a lot harder. You're going to go for another board. You flatten that rocker through the center of the board. Also lower the rocker into the nose, gives it a little bit more speed into the wave, gives you a bit more speed down the line, and it gives you a little bit more of a positive feel. I find that with the boards with a lot of rocker, you sort of lose feel because you don't have that flat spot through the center of the board, so you don't have that stability on the board. And maybe I'm just getting old, but anyway, that was the thought process. And yeah, I just wanted to let you have a look at the boards. They're all super interesting. Great little groveler boards, super fast. Love the little board for fun waves, like small 2-3 foot stuff. It just flies. The mashup, I think, is probably the board that I would recommend for any older guy to surf. I mean, these boards are phenomenal. I've actually been blown away by these epoxy mashups. Dan the man, I mean, seriously, that's an incredible board all around. I think that's one of the best boards I've ever ridden. I'm super stoked with this Mayhem, which Jay's just made me. It's got a very similar feel. It's not quite as fast as this board, but it gives you the same type of feel, the same type of drive. Obviously with the ASYM, I'm going to be looking at putting a little bit more concave through the center of the board, just to try and give it a little bit more speed down the line, and just to take that entry, just soften the entry rocker into the wave so she paddles in a little bit. I get this sort of feeling that she sort of pushes water a little bit. And obviously Graham's high performance board, this is a horse for a course. I mean, this is 6 foot clean pumping supers. It was just incredible. I think us older guys are or because we slow up, I wouldn't say we're lazy, but we're just too slow to actually drive these boards rail to rail. And this is one of the things I've been looking at for these boards, and maybe gives you, well, the older guys, a little bit more understanding. And what I'm definitely looking at now is speed first, and then working on the turnability of the board, obviously with your flicking your tails and your rockers and your tails and like that as a secondary option, because if you've got the speed and you've got the entry and you're ahead of the game, it makes everything easier and opens up your surfing. Okay, with that said, let's go visit Dennis at the boardroom. I've just come through to come and have a chat with Dennis. Dennis has been a long time shaper, very sort of underground guy who's been shaping for many years, and funny enough, I hadn't had a board from Dennis, or a board that Dennis has shaped in probably in absolute years, until I decided to have a try on one of these Asyms. It's crazy, it's taken me 60 years to start, looking at all these different things, when previously I'd been surfing very much the same sort of boards. And it's actually been a lot of fun, because it just opens up your mind to different sort of things and gives you a different feel on the board. So, and it's sort of exciting, it sort of amps you up to go surfing. But anyway, we're at the boardroom, it's in PE. We go up the stairs and go check what Dennis has to say. Yeah, this is like old school boardroom. It's almost like a museum in here. Boards from the town and country days, those with Graham Smith in the old days. Bit of sea flight. And boards from all over the place here. TNC again, sea flight, that's a really old board. Some Al Merricks, some Larry Levine, some Glenn Darcy's, some Parmans by the looks of it. There's an old Lamont. The Dennis's older boards. There's the old Larry Levine design. That is a hand-drawn decal. Sure, country rhythm. Is that a Parman? Yeah, that's a Parman, I think.
Yeah, he's a little bit twitchy.
Old bolts, some old gunners, some longboards. Super interesting place to visit. This is Dennis. Dennis, you've been at the boardroom how many years? When did you guys move in here?
Trevor, I've been in these premises going on 30 years now. Huh? It's a long time.
Shit, I mean, you just about outlived all the other freaking hand shapers in the whole industry down here.
Yeah. Well, look, it's not a long-term business, really. If you got any brains, you get out of this business as quickly as possible. I'm stupid enough to stick it out.
Yeah, the place looks awesome, mate. It's like a bloody museum, and there's some classic old boards here.
Yeah, I've got some gems. I've been lucky over the years, been here so long. You get the guys coming in the door and they've got an old board. They've all got stories as well, they've all got long stories. I've got an old spotty white there from East London, and the owner came in, he found out I had his old original board, the first board he ever had. He came in with his wife, he's probably in his 60s now, and he was shedding tears when he looked at that board. It was amazing.
Sentimental value.
And they've all got stories.
Yeah.
I've got a Tom Curran over there.
Just look at how narrow that board is. Holy shit, how did you ride those toothpicks in those days? It's incredible.
That was part of the Derek on quiver when they did the first search to J-Bay. And some old guy came in off the street with that board, which is a Weber Banana. It's a unique board. I don't know how the guy got it. We did a trade. He wanted me to saw the tail off and change the shape, and then I gave him
it's an original. Awesome.
And then I picked up the other part of the quiver, that quad fin, that McKee quad in the corner.
That top corner there.
I picked that up on a rubbish dump in Sardinia Bay.
Holy shit.
And that's part of the same quiver that Derek Hahn was travelling around with all those boards, and that's in the fish story started again. So they're all part of history.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's an old Echo Beach. Jeez, that's Slunger days.
Graham Smith.
Yeah, and then obviously the town and countries to a Graham Smith.
Graham or Errol Hickman, maybe. You've got a Robbie Ponch.
Yeah, that might be an Errol, but I think this is one of, I don't know if this is, who's that on the back?
That's a Nigel Perot.
A Nigel Perot,
South African guy.
Yeah,
and then there's I think this is probably Brad Van Vecht's board, I think, or one of
that looks like one of Brad's boards. Yeah,
you think so, huh?
Yeah, that does look like he did. I remember him. This when we all went onto the quads.
You guys are all riding quads.
Quads, yeah. And like, this is sort of 85 with that Cyclone and Moina Bruce's, that sort of era. I mean, I was good mates with Brad. We used to surf together a lot.
That's right.
We were in the army together.
Yeah, and that's what you guys are riding.
Yeah.
This one over here. Yeah, it's beat up in that there's Sawyer.
It's an old Sawyer.
I think it's one of Willie Castle's old boards.
You know what, you're right. I remember this board. He used to do those laybacks, weird laybacks on them. Holy shit, yeah. Willie Castle's, my heck.
It's in terrible condition, but that's a good story about that as well.
Man, all these boards will have stories for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, all these old sea flights, Dave Lipschitz, I mean, there's some really...
I've got a Barber over there.
Is that a Barber?
It's a Barber. I've got a Neil Purchase Senior, the original guy from the Gold Coast next to that. But those two boards are made in the same era. And I tell you what, the Clive Barber is such a better shape.
Really?
Much better shape,
Oh,
those
you know,
I mean, terrible in those days.
Well, I mean, you're also one of the few guys also that are left, like, that have come from. We sort of started on single fins, and then from then, by the time, I think, Dennis, you would have probably been in the shortboard single fins. Larry, early end of Larry's sort of singles, the twin fins are starting to come in, and then the quads, and then obviously the thrusters with like the obviously the big thing. So there's very few of the guys who've carried through. I mean, obviously there's a lot of the old Aussie shapers, one or two older wine shapers and stuff like that, but I mean, it's super interesting. These guys have been through like the whole entire echelon of surfboards, you know, and it's like it's all of the hand shaping, you know. So I mean, it's you've seen a lot change, and now you're onto the machines as well.
On the machine, well, these days you've got to have a machine or work with a machine to compete. Otherwise, you just can't make money. It's not a viable business if you're hand shaping, unless you're doing really high end stuff like Stevie Sawyer and that kind of thing, where you're making
bespoke sort of board.
Bespoke, and you're charging good bucks. You know, so then you can get away with the hand shaping. Otherwise, for the average guy like me, you've got to be competitive. The reproduction factor is big as well, to be able to reproduce a magic board as well.
I mean, you guys, this is a labour of love. It's one of those. I mean, if you don't love doing this, you're never going to do it, because the monetary return is not there for the hours put in, for sure.
I've just had my books done a little while ago, and the accountant was looking at them saying, "This is not a business model. How can you run a business like this?" And the surfboard manufacturing business model is that if you work your overheads like your factory rent into the books, you're not going to make money. So most guys own their premises, or work from home or something like that. Otherwise, you don't make money.
You're feeding your family, and that's just about it.
That's about it. So it's a lab of luck.
You've got to love it, for sure. Anyway, listen, we've chatted about the factory. Like I was saying outside, the reason why we're actually here basically is because Mike and Ferenc said to me lately, he wanted to sort of resurrect the Levine sort of logo. It's like a retro sort of logo, and he was asking me about a board, and I was like, man, I'd love to ride an Asym, because Dennis is probably one of the few guys who've actually had a bit of experience riding the Asyms. And I did a program, you'll remember, with Bruce Campbell, with we were at Vic Bay surfing a comp and had a look at his, and I was like super interested to try it because it's an interesting concept. And I mean, Dennis has probably had the most experience out of anybody. I think I wouldn't say countrywide, but I would say possibly, possibly countrywide.
I don't think there's been many other people messing around with them. Bruce has got a very open mind when it comes to surfboard designs, and he brings me this stuff as well. He's opened my eyes a lot. So I mean, with the Asym, he came along and said, let's make one and see how it goes. And he was raving about it. So obviously I had to get myself one. I was super skeptical about it, to be honest. I mean, they look bizarre. But if you look back at the history of them, and Peter Townsend rode one in '76. Apparently that was the board he won the most contests on, was an Asym. So it's not a new thing. It's just been
refined
a little bit, like the twins coming back and the quads coming back and all that type of thing. So it's a little bit more refined with new contours and that type of thing. But I think it's the start of another whole journey. It's going to go. I think they're quite crude at the moment. They're going to get a lot more refined. For me personally, the main thing was just to see if they actually worked. I didn't know if they worked. And after riding them, you see that do work.
Yeah.
And now it's got the thought pattern going that there's definitely room for improvement, and to take it to a next sort of level.
Yeah, well, that's actually why I'm here with Dennis, because I've taken the board for a ride. The board goes, but there's a couple of things I would like to change, and I'm going to come and talk to him about it, so that we can have a look at some of the rockers of some of the other boards that I've got, and especially, and because this Firewire mashup has absolutely blown my mind, because it's the fastest board that I've got, and if you look at the bottom, it's not anything special, but the board goes, and I think especially for the older guys, where you're wanting this positive feedback, you're wanting speed, you want quick entry into the wave, so it gives you time. You're getting down the face quicker, you're getting ahead of the game, and it gives you more time to do your turns and plan what you want to do, because we're slow and things don't work as fast as the youngsters. And I think what I've said all along is that I think that what's happening with the older guys is we're trying to ride these like high performance, fully rocketed boards. The boards have got a lot of rocker, and to make those boards ride well, you've got to really go rail to rail on them, because the speed is more built into your rocker than it is into the board itself. And this is where I think these Firewires and these grovelers have made a big difference, because they've incorporated the concave into the middle of the board. You've got a sort of flatter spot which gives you a bit of speed, and the entry of the board into the wave, onto the wave, is lower, so the board glides in. And it was interesting. I watched a program on Nick Razzo. He's just dropped a video now from Proctor Surfboards, and he was comparing his boards, and he was saying, well, the one board just seemed to enter the wave easier because it had less rocker in the nose. And this is one of the things I'm going to talk to Dennis about now. The board just, I find on this board, you feel like you're pushing a little bit of water, and I think it's got a lot to do with the rocker entry into the wave. So you're having to take an extra paddle, and that puts you back a little bit, just stuff like that. So I want to try and just refine this board and see if we can find a sweet spot for it, because one of the things I'm also finding is that with a rocker, and we'll have a look at it now, is that the rocker is actually right into the midpoint of the board, and without the concave, you've got more rocker through the belly part of the board. And I find that riding the board, I'm finding it really difficult to find a sweet spot. I said to Dennis when I spoke to him the first time that it felt like a rocking horse, and like you just couldn't set yourself. And I think that little flat spot with the concave through the middle of the board gives you that set, and it gives you that positive feedback. And this is sort of something which we're going to have a look at now, and it'll be interesting to see if we're going to put a flat edge on these boards and see how different the rockers are on these boards. As I was saying, it's much easier for the older guys because you get the speed, you get set much easier, it gives you time. And then trying to ride these boards which are rail, you have to go really rail to rail to get the speed up. So you're always behind the 8 ball, you're trying to gain the speed, and by the time you're actually late, and then it actually messes your timing and everything up. So yeah, let's kind of have a look and see what we find on these boards.
Yeah, let's get the measurements out there and flat edge and have a look at them. Yeah, I mean, a lot of surfers these days, Trevor, you look at the youngsters and they ride a particular kind of board, and that particular kind of board is what the pros are riding, and it's geared towards a particular kind of surfing. Yeah. As you get older, apart from getting a little bit slower and all of that, you maybe want to broaden your experience a little bit more and look at obviously getting a bit of help with your surfing in terms of speed, generation and that type of thing, but also having a wider experience, you know. Yeah. And you look at some of the free surfers, guys like Rastovich and those guys who've got quite open minds, and they've been on this stuff for ages. And it teaches you stuff about your surfing as well as the boards. You know, so sometimes you can learn more from a bad board than a good board. So it's all part of the learning.
Yeah, it makes you think, I mean, for sure. And especially, I mean, it's taken me 60 years to actually start experimenting with boards. I've been riding the same stuff over and over. It's like crazy. And now that I've done this, it's like, wow, there's a hell of a lot more to this. And I think one of the biggest thing, and I spoke to Dennis about it, is especially when you get older, your need for speed is like way greater, because you don't have the torque and the flexibility in your body to be able to drive the boards. And that's where I keep on coming to with the boards with a lot of rocker. You really need a lot of flex and torque. And like guys like Geordie, I rode a board of his I think about a year and a half ago. And I came in and I said to him, geez, I'm battling to get the board going. And I was like, man, I think it's got too much rocker. And he was like, man, that's the board that's got the least rocker of my whole quiver. And I mean, that like lit the bulb as well. And you just start thinking, oh man, you really need to like look at different stuff, you know, to help your surfing. And I think if you've got the speed, it improves your timing and all that. And this is like the road that I've been going on now, is to try and find boards that actually help you improve your surfing, because we're not going vertical and doing freaking laid backs and all that stuff that the youngsters are doing. But having the time and the speed like frees your surfing up, and it's just so much easier. It just feels so much easier and like flowy, you know. Anyway, so let's go and have a look at what these boards come out and see what the differences are. Make sure you join us next week when we go into the shaping bay. We chat about the rockers on the boards, we put some flat edges on, have a look at the concaves on the board, and chat about the changes we want to make in the new Asym. And yeah, just generally have a look at how much these boards differ. Thanks for joining us this week. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. Ciao for now.